everybody. So nice to see so many of you here for this really exciting event. We're so excited to have Girish here joining us. My name is Laura Dudley. If I don't know you, I am a professor here at Northeastern in the Applied Psychology Department, and I teach mindfulness classes here, and I see many of my students are here this evening. I just wanted to give a brief introduction of Girish, and then I'll hand it over to him. So Girish is an internationally touring world music artist, teacher, and author. He began his music career as a jazz drummer. He spent 5 years as a monk in a Hindu monastery, returned to music as a session tabla player on more than 100 world music albums, and for the past 12 years he has written, recorded, and performed his own original music and taught Sanskrit mantras and chanting in music festivals and yoga studios all over the world. His 7 albums have received critical acclaim from the Oprah magazine, Yoga Journal, and The Guardian, among others. Girish's book, Music and Mantras, which you'll see on this table here if anyone's interested in taking a look, continues Girish's mission to share the art of meditation through music and mantra with the world. And so I'm just delighted to have Girish here today. I can tell you from personal experience, having had the honor to attend some of Girish's performances and talks, that it really, I found it to be very, very transformative. And I'm excited at this opportunity for us all to reconnect with our voice boxes and to reconnect with the joy that our voice boxes can bring us. So with that, I will pass it over to you.
Thank you, Laura.
You're
Hey, welcome everyone. Namaste. Good to see you guys. How many of you are in Laura's class? Raise a hand. Okay, that seems like a lot of you. Quick question. How many of us are doing some sort of a mindfulness or meditation practice? Raise a hand. Something. Okay, that's good. That's brilliant. My name is Girish, and as Laura was saying, I've had an interesting life path that included music, which somehow mysteriously morphed into monkhood, living in a monastery, and then sort of like blending those two worlds together, which might seem like an odd combination, but a big part of what I've discovered is that music, and particularly singing, is actually a health and wellness practice. And a part of what I was inspired to research when I wrote the book was some of the scientific evidence that supports the benefits of singing. And what inspires me to share with you guys today is that whatever your meditation or mindfulness practice might look like right now, there is this whole other domain of skills, tools, practices that we can integrate into whatever we're doing. And it literally as close as our next breath, to tap into that space that we all are yearning for so much, which is that place of connection, that place of homecoming, of arriving comfortably within ourselves. And the best news about this is that we don't have to be particularly good at it for it to work for us. Meaning the act of singing, and particularly mindful singing, has nothing to do with anything that Simon Cowell would vote for. The benefits of singing are completely separate and apart from our ability to sing on tune, to even rationally, conceptually understand what a chant means. As we're going to experience in a minute, these things are self-evident. They're self-explanatory. And I think that's really beautiful because it does something that is so rare in our lives right now, which is it takes us out of our thinking, rational, sort of left brain consciousness and drops us into experience. Throughout the course of this little time we have together today, which I want to be primarily experiential, so we are going to sing together, we're going to explore these practices, we'll have a moment for questions and answers at the end. I'll share some tools that you can take with you to support yourselves as you go through your day, as you go through your lives. And I think that you'll find them to be fun and powerful. And before we dive in, I just want to reflect to you guys a thought that's occurred to me over this week leading up to today. I was you at the point in my life when this whole journey started. I was a sophomore in college. At that point in my life, my worldview was, the Marxist theory, religion is the opiate of the people, that we're comforting ourselves with religion. That it's a pretty thought, that there's a God and a heaven and an afterlife and all these lofty concepts. But I didn't have any reason to think that it was true. In fact, I was pretty convinced that it wasn't. To fulfill an elective in my sophomore year, I took a comparative religions course. And growing up in a Presbyterian church, I was pretty familiar in the first stop on the World Religions Tour, which was Christianity. And then we ventured into Judaism. And in both of those domains, the emphasis was on belief and doctrine and the tenets of the tradition. But things changed when we, a month or two in, got into some of the Eastern traditions of Buddhism and Hinduism. And I had a book that we were following along with the course, and in the Christianity section, in the section of Judaism, I saw familiar pictures of churches and synagogues, but things looked a little different in the next section on Hinduism. And I saw pictures of these yogis with their eyes closed in meditation, who looked like they had found something. They looked fulfilled, they looked happy and at peace. And I noticed a stark difference in the sort of heart of the Hindu tradition, the Buddhist tradition, was, yes, there were tenets, there was a philosophy, there were beliefs, but one wasn't required to adopt those beliefs to be considered a practitioner. The goal, as I understood it as a college kid, the goal of these Eastern traditions was direct experience. And I saw words like samadhi, S-A-M-A-D-H-I, which describes a state of very high meditation, a state of oneness or absorption, that having had, which we never sort of return to, I've heard it described as like, it's as if you've been in a dark room. And then you have this exalted mindfulness. Let's talk about a familiar term like mindfulness. You have this exalted experience of mindfulness. It's as if the lights come on in the room. And you finally see what's been surrounding you all this time as you've been stumbling around in the dark. Even if the lights go out again, you can never return to your same place of ignorance again, right? And that intrigued me, and a switch was flipped in that moment. Because I saw photographic evidence that someone was having this experience of God, of the sacred, or at the very least of peace, and what looked to me like joy. And that switched me from feeling like religion or spiritual practices was some sort of an escapism into realizing that it was a search for truth and for direct experience. And that day, my life really changed, because my revelation at that point was that if this is true, if this experience is real, and here's a photograph of someone having this experience, then there's nothing more important than me having that experience myself. That was my MO. And that's what led me on this path, this sort of journey from being a jazz drummer to being a monk in a Hindu monastery and spending 5 years there and 5 years with another teacher. And in that sort of like far removed environment of a mountain monastery in the foothills of the Smoky Mountains in Tennessee, the practices that I learned, I'm sharing them with you in a sort of contemporary format. So everything that we're going to talk about today is sort of an echo of these practices that I learned as a young monk, but have since sort of realized that now researchers have found that there's actual measurable benefit to these practices on our physiology. For instance, as a starting point before we sing, did you know when we sing regularly, our cortisol levels drop by about 12 to 14%. When we sing in a group, there's all kinds of magic that happens inside of the brain. For instance, we release oxytocin, right, which is a bonding hormone that women secrete at the time of breastfeeding, men secrete it at the moment of orgasm, and it sort of glues us together and gives us that feeling of connection, which this past year and a half, I feel like we've all been craving, you know. Some other amazing things that happen when we sing in our cardiovascular system, heart rate variability, and raise a hand if you're familiar with heart rate variability? Really? Okay. So heart rate variability is just a measure of the fluctuations in the rhythms of the heart, right? It's sort of mapping our pulse over time. If you have a high heart rate variability, it means you are tending to be more adaptive, more vital. And when we sing, our heart rate variability goes up. Any kind of singing raises your heart rate variability, but particularly when we chant, when we do mantras. And the reason for that, and this is the last thing I'll say before we sing together, is one of the greatest discoveries that they found about chanting is, far from being this sort of like obscure mystical practice, there is a through line between many of the world's traditions and the chanting and recitation practices they do, which is a common breathing pattern. In this particular research study that I cite in the book, they found that in the Christian, Hindu, and Buddhist traditions, as they hooked all these people up to their equipment to measure their heart rates and what was happening inside, they discovered that all three types of chants from these three different traditions produced almost identical benefits and an almost identical increase in heart rate variability levels. And they mapped it out and discovered that they were singing with a breathing pattern of about 9 seconds out, 1 second in. 9 to 10 seconds exhaling, whether they're singing Ave Maria, Om Mani Padme Hum, or the Gayatri mantra from the Christian, Buddhist, and Hindu traditions. They're following this breathing pattern. And that breathing pattern synced up with a cardiovascular rhythm in the body called a Meyer wave. Breathing in that pattern naturally tends to encourage that rest and restore state of the nervous system. We tend to be in a more parasympathetic resting state. That to me is a key insight that says it isn't about adopting a state of a certain belief. And it isn't an act of faith. It's just about doing the practice. And so what we're going to experience today is doing some of the practices, but I just wanted you to know that whether or not we believe in any of the philosophy or the mythology, the practices are actually rooted in experiential evidence that they benefit us, and they are actually a health and wellness practice. So we're going to sing a few ohms together to start, and I want to invite you guys to do just one thing before we begin, which is just embrace this little aphorism, and I want you to experience it as an act of kindness towards yourself and kindness towards the person to your left, to your right, in front, and behind you. And the aphorism is, I love my voice just as it is. And you can adapt it to, I love your voice just as it is. That might sound silly and it might sound simple, but what I've discovered is that singing is an act of embodied self-care. That when we dare to let our voices come out, we are traveling these pathways of creative self-expression. And there's a little saying that I really relate to, which is, if you free the voice, you free the person. If you free the voice, you free the person. There's a book by Bessel van der Kolk, The Body Keeps the Score, talking about how our experiences of trauma, and this doesn't have to be having lived through war or something on that far into the spectrum, but just something, maybe small t trauma that we've experienced in our daily lives that imprinted us in an intense way. Those small t traumatic experiences left an imprint on our biology. And these practices are a powerful way of unraveling those knots within us. And if the body keeps the score, then what I've discovered is the history of our lives is also told through our voice. And this sort of patterns that we've taken on can be revealed by paying attention to the sound and quality and somatic, that's the embodied feeling of releasing our voice through singing. And this may be new. How many of you guys sing with any regularity? Raise a hand. Okay, how many of you guys sing in the privacy of your shower or your car? Yes, okay, so this is it. We all sing, we all love to sing, but maybe we feel like Simon Cowell wouldn't approve, and so we were maybe a little shy about it. What the yogis understood was that singing is a sort of superpower, and it's our birthright to let our voices out. And it's the opposite of performance. It's not about singing for entertainment or performance or to be judged. It's the opposite of that. It's singing as an expression of self-care and self-love, just as we are. So the aphorism is, I love my voice just as it is. If you can't quite love your voice, you guys, then I feel kindness for my voice. Have you heard of elevated emotions? Elevated emotions? You know what they are, but this is just a term, a way of expressing, labeling them. Love, kindness, compassion, forgiveness, care. When we have these feelings, it's not just that we get warm and fuzzy when we have them. Our whole physiology gets highly organized when we feel these things. We'll talk more about it when I finally shut up and after we sing a little bit. There's a lot to share, but they're talking about heart-brain coherence, right? It's as if the heart and the brain are marching to the beat of the same drummer, and they come into this state of efficiency. All of our systems are functioning in a more organized, highly energized way. When we feel love, when we feel gratitude, when we feel compassion. What I'm asking you to do is the simple practice, and it's as near as your next breath, which is this. Dare to sing, and when you sing, receive your voice with loving ears. Receive your voice with the feeling, not just the thought, but the feeling that I love my voice just as it is. To dare to have that experience. And I know that might be a big ask, right? To like dare to like love your voice. Like based on how many hands went up when I asked how many people sang, I'm guessing like me, you probably would think like, I'm not a singer. I sing, but I'm not a singer. And so I'm asking you to sort of put that judgment aside and see if you can nurture an actual felt sensation of gratitude, kindness, maybe forgiveness for your voice when you sing today, and just receive it like that and see how it feels with curiosity, with compassion. It's an act of sort of musical mindfulness or musical meditation. So with that, I'm going to turn on the sound of an instrument which I'll tell you more about in a moment, called tambura. This instrument is a harmonium. Just close the eyes and just receive the sound for a moment before we sing. Before we sing the first of 3 ohms, we'll do a cleansing breath. So we'll just take a big breath in through the nose, inhale to fill the lungs, and sigh it out. Let's do that 2 more times and we'll sing. Big breath in through the nose, fill the lungs. Arise like a flower rooted down deep in the belly, right at the navel, a couple inches below the belly button. We'll sing 3 ohms together. For a minute and just receive. I will sing a little invocation. This is in the language of Sanskrit, just 3 brief verses, and we'll sing 1 more om at the end of it. So just receive with eyes closed. Sarvamangala Mangalye Shive Sarvartha Sadike Sharanye Trambake Gauri Narayani Namostute Shisti Stiti Vinashana Shakti Bhute Sanatani Gunaswaye Gunamaye Narayani Sharanagata Dinata Paritrana Parayane Sarvasyarti Hari Devi Narayani Namostute Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. One more om. Big breath in, right from the belly. Everybody sing. closed for just a moment and just take a quick scan of the system. Notice your body, notice your energy, notice your emotion, notice the action of the mind, the thoughts that might be flowing in and out, and just take a read on how you're feeling in this moment. And if you notice a qualitative shift towards more relaxation, more peace, more connection, more light, more expansion, raise your hand. Okay, good. Beautiful. So you can open your eyes if you like. So what I want to do is just share really briefly a couple of simple tools that we can do to support us in finding a more embodied way of using the voice. And this is about the yoga of singing. And it's sort of merging Western vocal technique with a more sort of Eastern approach to embodied singing that would come from more of the Taoist system. So I want to start with our hands on the belly, and I want to say to you guys, first of all, everything that we're doing here can be used in dual purposes. It can be used as a sort of a vocal warm-up if you were going to go and audition for Hamilton, or to go serenade your partner. And it can also be used as a form of embodied mindfulness before you go in to give a presentation, before you go in to have a hard conversation with a friend or a partner, when you're feeling overwhelmed or stressed, or you want to just come home to yourself to kind of ground in and arrive. These are embodied mindfulness tools, masquerading as singing practices. Hands are on the belly. There's a spot here, everybody, a couple inches below the navel. It's called the Dan Tian in the Taoist tradition. It's the physical center of the body, but it's also one of the primary energy centers. If you were in a martial arts class and you were training to break a board with your hand or your foot, it might be the hand or the foot that finally passes through that board, but your life energy, the power, the force that breaks the board is rooted here. And this is the root of the voice. Not only when we sing, but when we speak, when we express ourselves throughout the day. You know that saying, speak your truth even if your voice shakes, right? Speak your truth even if your voice shakes. If we speak from here, from down here at the Dan Tian, there's a lot less shaking. We're not up here on the surface. We're down beneath the actions of the waves of thought and feeling. We're dropped down into being, into embodiment, into calm abiding. So the hands are on the belly. Let the warmth of your hands, a couple of inches below the navel, give a gentle press so that you can feel the warmth of your hands. And as that warmth penetrates within the body, you're looking for a spot that's a couple inches within the belly. So we'll just connect to it through the breath first. You can close the eyes if you like. So we'll take a breath in through the nose, filling up the lungs. All right, and then exhale through the nose slowly and draw the navel back towards the spine, using the hand to sort of slowly assist a gentle, almost imperceptible drawing in of navel towards the spine, keeping your awareness anchored in that root center of Dan Tian. Let's do that again. Fill the lungs. We're taking shallow breaths as a species. We're not breathing. And yoga singing is all about finding the fullness of breath and the fullness of vitality that provides. Full breath into the nose. a slow, easy, calm breath out through the nose. Draw navel into spine. So the navel is moving constantly, right? The navel is drawing in towards the spine the entire length of the exhale. And what we're doing, everybody, is we're drawing awareness from thought into feeling, and from feeling into being. What singers realize is you cannot sing from a place of thinking. There's too much happening too fast. The vocal cords are vibrating at 400 times a second. You can't figure that out with your rational mind. You have to drop into the ancient wisdom of the body, into millions of years of evolution present as our own biology. So eyes closed, we're going to do that one more time. Inhale fully. Slowly exhale through the nose, navel draws into spine. See how it feels to be embodied, to simply abide there at that root center below the navel. Good. We're going to add one little subtle sound. It's the subtlest sound we can make. It's going to be the sound of an S. So everybody breathe in full through the nose. Make the sound of S. And draw navel into spine. Anchoring that sound in embodiment. Anchoring, rooting the voice in the belly. One more time. Get a full breath in all the way up to the top of the lungs. And let the S just arise effortlessly like the fragrance from a flower just blossoming out. It just happens without pushing, without effort. One more time with the S, everybody. Again, fill the lungs to maximum capacity. And better. Here are some indicators that we're finding the roots of the voice, that we're finding embodiment in the moment. Your voice, at this point we haven't vocalized yet, but that your S or your exhale or your voice, whatever you happen to be doing, is sustained longer. We're about to sing. Notice how it feels if you're sustained on the, we're going to make an ah sound. If the ah lasts longer, also notice how it feels in your body. If there's more of a sense of fullness, of resonance, of connection when you sing your ah, versus before when we weren't quite tuned into this rootedness in the voice. So I'll give us support with the sound of the harmonium. Hands on the belly if you like. Really tuning into that dantian and drawing navel into spine so that your awareness is just simply absorbed in the action of drawing navel into spine as the diaphragm rises back up against, snuggled up under the lungs, all the length of the exhale. Big breath in, everybody, the top of the lungs. And ah. Maximum inhale. Bless yourself with a full breath in through the nose. And draw navel into spine. Let your awareness just rest there at the belly with the one focus of drawing navel into spine. Let the voice just blossom effortlessly. One more time. Inhale full. Raise your hand if you hear a sound in the back of the room. What was that? I see, falling globes. Raise your hand if you compare your ohms earlier and your post-dantian ohms with what we're doing right now, or your post-dantian ahs. Do you notice an improvement in the quality, the sustain, and the resonance of your voice now when we connect to the navel. Anybody raise a hand if you feel that. Any other, okay, good. Call out a word or a phrase about how it feels to sing or to express when you're connected to this root, to this energetic power center at the belly. What is it? How does it feel? What do you notice? Open. What else? In line. In line. Anything else? Connected. Is that a word that resonates? Expanded. When it gets really yummy, we might begin to glimpse ourselves not just as this appearance of flesh and bone, but as vibrational, energetic beings. We might begin to notice our permeability, our vibrational nature, more than these hard, visible boundaries of skin. We might begin to experience our sort of energetic selves. Let's see if we can tap into that a little bit more. That piece there is key because that is sort of the power source. The Dan Tian is the power source of the voice. And again, it's where we're going to sing from, but it's also where we can express from. This is important work because if you free the voice, you free the person. And the pathways of the voice are the pathways of creative self-expression. They're one and the same. We found the power source. Let's clear some of the common roadblocks that stand in the way of that liberated voice. First one is the back of the tongue. There are 3 areas that I just want to tap into you guys in our little mini vocal yoga session. There's a practice, how many of you guys have been to a yoga class before? Raise a hand. Awesome. So you know what lion's breath is? How many of you guys know what lion's breath is? Okay, good. So we'll introduce it. Lion's breath is a dynamic exhale with the intention of kind of purging all stress tension from the system while extending the tongue. So you can inhale fully. Well, it's hard to do with masks on. Sorry. Well, we could, sneak a peek of no mask, but whatever you're comfortable with, whatever you want to do, it's going to look really funny. I'm going to turn the camera around so you can see a bunch of tongues coming out from under the masks. However you want to roll with this, extend the tongue and see if you can find a sense of stretching like you're doing tongue yoga and liberating tension, particularly at the back of the tongue. So again, full breath in, fill the lungs to the top. And exhale. You can scrunch up the face and kind of ball up all the tension, all the sort of micro stress that we carry around with us, sometimes imperceptibly, but still contributing to our state of overall experience of well-being or lack thereof. We kind of ball it all up into one coherent place so we can release it more efficiently. One more time, 2 more times really. Big breath in. And let it go. Don't be shy. And maybe right now in this room isn't where you're really going to let loose, but when you do this on your own, these 3 simple practices, you can use this as an opportunity to find flow in this pathway of expression through the voice. So one more time. Good. Now how do we know if there is tension sort of holding us back in this free flow of energy in the back of the tongue? There is a diagnostic for that the Western vocal world has discovered. It's called a tongue trill. So what we're going to do is we're going to sing the same note we've been singing on the om or the ah, but we're going to roll an R up in the roof of the mouth, like so. So try that. the tongue trill? Wait, nobody's getting it? Literally nobody? Are you trying? Okay, all right. Here's why you would want to do this practice. If you grok the connection between the freedom of the voice and the freedom of your life energy, your creativity, your self-expression, clearing that pathway pays palpable experiential dividends. You will feel it in your body. You will feel it as you speak, as you express, as you go through your day. You'll feel it as you're writing your next paper, as a more abundant flow of creativity in your words and your thoughts. It's palpable. If it's a struggle, that just means we just need to do a little bit more tongue yoga. Lion's breath, there's another thing called, there's a whole chapter on the yoga of singing in the book. There's something called, there is like tongue yoga, where you're actually like doing tongue pulling, and you're gently, in the comfort of your own room, taking hold of your tongue with like a silk cloth or maybe a mask that you want to use, and you gently hold and pull, stretch the tongue forward, hold for 3 or 4 seconds. You might feel a subtle little release at the back of the tongue. Then pull it to the right and hold. It sounds funny. Try it and see what you feel. It's amazing. Pull it to the left and hold. So this is yoga for the tongue. Very powerful. That is to address this first area of blockage, which is this stuck energy at the back of the tongue. The next area has to do with the neck and the jaw and kind of habitual tension that's held there. So the indicator, the diagnostic, and the remedy, I didn't mention this with the tongue trill. It's a diagnostic, meaning if you can tongue trill, that means you've got some free flow in the back, in that pathway flowing over the back of the tongue. But by doing that trill, you're also encouraging that energetic flow. There were some studies done about cats purring, and that we're trying to understand what happens when a cat purrs, because they're not talking, and explaining it to us. But we've discovered that it does much more than express pleasure. A cat can purr and reduce the inflammation on a wound on their bodies. A cat's purr can accelerate the knitting together of bones if they've sustained a broken bone. So what we're doing, what we're learning together today, is some vocal purrs. There's a rich tradition of what they're calling in modern vernacular tremoring. It used to be called shaking or quaking. The Shaker tradition and the Quaker tradition was well aware of this in Western Christian practice. Shaking off the habitual survival stress that we carry around with us unexpressed. Shaking off these perhaps lifelong held patterns of tension in the system, literally shaking them off. There's a system called TRE, and the man who developed it was a service worker in war zones and noticed people in bomb shelters after a bomb had exploded nearby shaking. They were just instinctively shaking. And animals will do this after an attack as a way of sort of shaking off the stress and the hormones that flow through the system in response to a threat. We don't have this luxury, so we walk through the world in habitual stress. So we're learning some vocal tremoring, some vocal purring, right? So this is called a lip trill. Same idea. We're going to make this note while buzzing the lips like this. You might need to pull your mask out a little bit to make this happen. Your choice if you want to do it. If you're comfortable, try it. Just ridiculous enough that it helps you feel a little bit more relaxed and just like at ease with yourself. Now, this is not an exercise in trying to make us feel silly. Partially it is, because partially these practices are about us getting out of our own way. But ridiculous things like a tongue trill, a lip trill, and some of the other exercises are actually doing powerful work. These are practices that are actually used in Western vocal coaching. So some of you may have gone to a vocal coach. If you did, you would learn lip trills, you would learn tongue trills, and some other very strange sounds that they've developed over centuries because they have learned that you can re-educate the system by encoding sounds that require relaxation. Because you guys, what you will notice is you cannot do this and have tension here. You can't do a tongue trill and have tension in the back of the tongue. So we're doing two things at once. We're singing while also trilling, which means that we're weaving in, we're leavening in ease, relaxation, openness, grace into the system as we're also singing. Does that make sense? So we're encoding, it's like we're building mindfulness, we're building flow, we're building peace into our physiology by doing this. A Western vocal teacher wouldn't necessarily use that language to talk about it, but that's the truth of what's happening. Does that make sense? And you don't have to aspire to be a singer to use these tools, because the same quality of ease and flow and connection that would yield a free-flowing singing voice also yields a free-flowing, embodied, at ease human being. This is why these practices are so powerful. Tension in the back of the tongue, lion's breath, tongue pulling. Tension in the neck and the jaw, lip trill. Oh, here's an assist for lip trill. Press your first fingers into the corners, just below the corners of the mouth. Press in and up and buzz, trill. How many of you guys could get it with the assist but couldn't get it before the assist? So that little press in there sort of breaks the circuit of tension around the mouth that would prevent the trill from happening. Those are the first two areas of tension that block the free flow of the voice. The third area is kind of where we started, which is that little aphorism that I shared with you, I love my voice just as it is. Because the third area of tension is the mind. And our perceptions, our judgments, our thoughts about ourselves. Specifically about our singing voice, but about ourselves. And the patterns we hold around who we are. This practice of singing, of mindful singing, is a way to explore that place of connection between our thoughts, our habits, our patterns, and the expression of our voice. The voice is a sort of brilliant, audible biofeedback device. And here's the key. It is a brilliant biofeedback device if and when we receive it with loving, compassionate ears. If you judge yourself harshly, if you receive yourself with impatience or anything other than those 5 elevated emotions of kindness, care, compassion, love, forgiveness, gratitude, 6. We're missing the boat. We're missing an opportunity on doing what I think is the most important work that any of us can do. And how many of you guys are in the pharmacy program here? So this is interesting to me that you as young humans could explore practices like this and explore the inner pharmacology of your own body's wisdom and medicines that you can release and engage through simple practices that require no external intermediary. They're right there as close as your next breath. And this one piece is the key to all of it. If you didn't do any of the rest of it, to explore your voice with this simple feeling, and everybody, I want you to understand that it's more than just a thought. It's actually the emotion, it's actually the feeling of love, care, compassion, kindness, forgiveness when you sing. So to close, I want us to actually sing together and have this experience. I'm going to follow up with some resources. So this sound that I began with is a tambura. It's an Indian instrument that gives us a musical pitch. In this case, it's a C, right? To sing to, even if we're not a musician. How many musicians in the room? Anybody here? Okay, so we're in the minority, but the reality is that as human beings, we are innately musical. And we respond to music, which is why we know if we go into the theater, you remember that? You remember theaters? You go into the theater and the soundtrack sounds like we know some bad stuff is about to happen. We know we're like not at an Adam Sandler movie, like, you know, some scary things might be about to happen. Because we're innately musical, our bodies are responsive to sound, to vibration. In fact, we have a whole auditory system in the brain called a tonotopic map that allows us to identify specific pitches, separate a C and a G and an E, to register those notes and to sort of respond to them. There's a whole rich body of research about how our musical abilities are inexorably entwined with our evolution as human beings, and perhaps we are the offspring of the humans who survived because they were able to identify friend or foe based on the modulations in the voice of the speaker. Are you telling me the truth, or are you playing with me? Based on the inflections in the voice. It's an interesting theory. And there's a whole host of other reasons why we are adaptive around musical sensitivity. All that to say, whether or not you play an instrument, this drone is something that you can have in the comfort of your own home. And I'll share that with Laura and Sagar to share with the group there's going to be a follow-up email. So you can access this app. It's called iTambura. And I would encourage you to play with different notes and find a note that your body responds to. And just sing an om, or just sing an ah, or just hum along. And maybe explore it as an alternative to another online activity. You know, if you've got your device, a drone instead of TikTok. Like, just turn on a drone and just like give yourself the gift of musical mindfulness, of embodied mindfulness, and just sing and receive your voice with loving ears and see how it feels. This is just foundational. There's a whole world of further exploration and expression around this that includes these beautiful archetypes of all the noble human virtues in the form of, in the Hindu tradition, the yogic tradition, of the deities, which are just embodiments of the virtues that we all aspire to: love, wisdom, creativity, connection, strength. And that world is there to explore, but this is the foundation. And what I want to close with in the time that we have, wow, time flies, is a chant that is an expression of loving kindness and a mantra that means may all beings everywhere be happy and free. The mantra is Loka. Repeat after me if you want to get the hang of it. Loka. Samasta. Sukhino. Bhavantu. So we're going to sing an abbreviated version. Is it okay, Laura, if I go a couple minutes over? Are we okay? Okay. We'll keep it short. But so there's a tradition in the world of bhakti yoga. This is the yoga of devotion, the yoga of the heart, of call and response chanting. So I'll sing and you guys listen and then sing back. We'll do a brief version of this song. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Give it a try, I'll sing. Loka samasta All together. Loka samasta Thank you all so much for your time and attention. Thank you, Sagar and Laura, for having me. There is music and the book, if you're interested in taking it home to support your practice. And it really is a sort of a come as you are sort of practice that you can integrate in any way that feels good for you. In your car, in your shower, in your dorm room, in your life, at the touch of a button on an app to support with a little bit of musical grounding. It's a really powerful way to come home to yourself in a direct, experiential and embodied way. And it's as close as your next breath. Thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I understand that there's a quick announcement as well.
Sure, yeah. Sorry, hi, I'm Jeff Sullivan. I'm in from the Global Experience Office. I'm the Assistant Director of Advising for the UK and Ireland. So we have a table out here for Geo. If you have any questions, feel free to come out. We do a lot of collaboration with CSDS. We're actually providing some food for this evening. So with Geo, any questions that you might have about global experiences, about wellness abroad, about ways in which students can still be connected to Northeastern for mental health reasons or for just wellness in general. We'd be happy to kind of work with you, but also just to talk about opportunities as well. So, thank you.
Thank you. And thank you again, Girish.
Yeah.
And Girish has some books here, and we will also make sure that we receive the email that has some of the resources that Girish purchased. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.